Dear friend, is your mind still racing with worries, even when your body is exhausted? Amidst a noisy modern world that demands constant attention, a good night's sleep seems to have become a luxury. But tonight, you have come home. I want you to know that the sense of instability you are carrying is not a weakness. It is merely a signal that your soul is longing for a haven of peace. In this video, we are not merely reading an ancient text. I invite you to step into a profound soul therapy journey, where Kahlil Gibran's deep insight into life intertwines with the healing power of the Gospel of John. We will replace anxiety with the eternal promise of the one who said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." If you are ready to rediscover restful sleep, click subscribe now so you don't lose this peaceful sanctuary. And now, put your phone aside. Take a deep breath, hold the stillness, and exhale every burden. Let us begin. Dear friend, let your breath drift gently like a leaf falling on a still lake. We are standing at the threshold of the Gospel of John, not as a dogmatic book, but as a symphony of the universe written in light. Tonight, as you lie down, perhaps your mind is still echoing the noises of a long day work worries, cracks in relationships, or simply a vague fear of the future. That is the state the Bible calls darkness or chaos. But right now, I want to invite you to go back in time, back to the starting point of it all, where healing begins not with an action, but with a presence. The Bible opens the Gospel of John with a powerful yet incredibly soothing affirmation, like a bell ringing in the void. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. Why is this important for your sleep tonight? The word or logos in classical thought is not just speech, it is reason, order, the operating principle of the universe. When you suffer from insomnia, it is often because you feel your life is out of order. Everything seems to be in free fall, and you try to use your limited strength to hold it back. But this verse whispers to you, before your worry was formed, order was already there. Before the chaos of the modern world arrived, the Word existed to hold everything together. You do not need to be the keeper of order for this universe. There is one who does that for you. Let go. Let the Logos rearrange the broken pieces in your mind. Kahlil Gibran, with the sensitive soul of an Eastern poet, deeply understood that the power of this word lies not in the external sound, but in the internal echo. In The Prophet, he wrote about the silent knowledge of the soul. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Tonight, let God's word be like that seed, lying quietly beneath the cold snow of worries, silently preparing for a spring of the soul. You do not need to try to understand everything. Just believe that life is stirring beneath your sleep. And then, John leads us to a contrasting but hope-filled image, the strongest sedative for those who fear the darkness of the night or the darkness of adversity. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. Visualize this in your mind, a pitch-black room. Darkness may cover everything. It may be thick and scary, but just one small candle lit, and the darkness can do nothing to that candle. Darkness has no entity. It is just the absence of light. Your anxiety, your insomnia, no matter how huge it seems, cannot overcome God's light. This is not empty encouragement. This is a physical and spiritual law. When you close your eyes tonight, do not focus on chasing the darkness away. Focus on inviting the light in. That light is Jesus, the one who is the source of life. But how do we recognize that light when our eyes are blurred with fatigue? The story introduces John the Baptist. He was not the light. He was only a witness. Sometimes we pressure ourselves to be the source of light, to be strong, to solve every problem ourselves. That is exhausting. Learn the mindset of John the Baptist. You do not need to be your own savior. You just need to be an observer, a witness to the small good things God is doing. Admit your weakness and unload that burden onto the shoulders of the Lamb of God, the one who takes away the sin of the world. Kahlil Gibran also reminded us of letting go of the proud ego to merge into the greater flow. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? Sleep, in a way, is a soothing little death. And it is when you take off the armor of the ego, stand naked before God's protection, and melt into His peace. Do not fear this melting. When you stop bracing yourself, that is when you are supported. Finally, the passage ends with a promise of identity, a firm anchor for the boat of your soul. Yet to all who did receive Him, to those who believed in His name, He gave the right to become children of God. John 1:12. When night falls, your social titles fall away. You are no longer a director, an employee, or a failure. You return to your core identity, children of God. A child sleeping in his father's arms does not worry about tomorrow, does not worry about the cost of living, does not worry about enemies. He sleeps soundly because he trusts in his Father's strength. Tonight, sleep with the mindset of a child. The greatest power in this universe is watching over your sleep. The darkness out there may still remain, but in this room of the soul, the light has been lit, warm and eternal. And as that light begins to spread, warming the coldest corners of your heart, we see that God's presence does not stop at concepts or words. He begins to act. He steps into our ordinary feasts, touching the empty jars of our lives to perform miracles. Let us walk together to a small village called Cana, where bland water is about to be transformed into rich wine, just as your boredom is about to be turned into joy. Let your body continue to relax on your soft bed. Imagine leaving the quiet wilderness of the Jordan River to step into a warmer, more ordinary scene, yet one that also harbors very human anxieties. A wedding in the village of Cana. Why is this story important for your sleep? Because it touches on a hidden fear we often carry to bed every night, the fear of running out. Have you ever lain down after a long day and felt completely empty? You have exhausted your strength for work, for family, for society's expectations. And then, like that wedding feast, you realize a terrifying truth. The wine is gone. Joy has run dry, energy has faded, and you fear that tomorrow you will have nothing left to give. You fear the shame of having your lack seen by the world. In the Gospel of John, Jesus' mother said to him a short sentence, but full of pleading. They have no more wine. John 2:3. Tonight, let that sentence speak for your heart. You do not need to pretend to be strong before God. Confess to Him, Lord, I am out of wine. I am out of patience, out of peace, out of strength. This confession is not a failure, but the beginning of a miracle. Look at Jesus' reaction. He did not panic, nor did he blame the host for the lack of preparation. He simply told the servants to fill 6 stone jars with water. This is a lesson in silent obedience. Sometimes to rediscover sleep, you need to do the simplest, most ordinary things, like filling jars with water. It is breathing, drinking a sip of warm water, closing your eyes. You do not need to try to create wine. The result, you just need to pour water. The letting go. The remaining transformation is God's work. And what was the result? Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. John 2:10. You have saved the best till now. Let this word lull you to sleep. The world often says that the best things have passed, youth has passed, opportunities have passed. But God says, no, the best wine is still ahead. Your sleep tonight is not the end of a tired day, but the preparation for a fresher, brighter tomorrow. Believe that God is capable of turning the tasteless drops of water of today into the rich wine of grace tomorrow morning. Kahlil Gibran, reflecting on the nature of joy and sorrow, wrote in The Prophet a sentence illuminating this transformation. Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. The stone jars at Cana, originally used for ceremonial washing, symbolizing the burden of the law and sorrow, are now filled with wedding wine. Likewise, the anxiety that keeps you awake tonight is the very well that God will fill with peace. Do not reject your sorrow. Offer it to God and let Him transform it. But for the new wine of grace to flow, our souls need a clean space. The story leads us from the serenity of Cana to the fierceness in Jerusalem. Imagine your mind like the majestic temple. It should be a place of silence, of prayer, of sacred connection. But look, what is going on in your head right now? Is it the noise of the merchants? Calculations about money? Bargaining over benefits? The bleating of anxiety? The bellowing of ambition? Your mind has become a noisy marketplace instead of a sanctuary. And that is why you cannot sleep. You cannot find God in the middle of such a chaotic market. The Bible describes a shocking image of Jesus. So He made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple area, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. John 2:15. Many fear this image, but tonight, I want you to see the fierce love in it. Jesus is not angry with you. He is fighting for you. He does not accept your soul where He resides being turned into a battlefield of worldly calculations. He overturns the tables of worry. He drives the cattle of pressure out of your mind. He wants to clear that space, to return the inherent peace to you. Imagine the sound of the whip cracking in the air. Whoosh, whoosh. Each sound is a command driving away negative thoughts. Worry about debt? Get out. Anger with colleagues? Get out. Fear of illness? Get out. He declares, stop turning my Father's house into a market. John 2:16. Tonight, let Jesus perform this spiritual major surgery for you. Do not regret those merchants. Do not try to hold on to worries as if they were your assets. Let him turn everything upside down if necessary, as long as afterwards silence is restored. Kahlil Gibran spoke very well about this inner noise, as if he were seeing the very market in our heads. You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts, and when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart. You live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. When we suffer from insomnia, it is because we are talking too much in our heads, because we are no longer at peace with our own thoughts. That noise is a diversion. Jesus came to end that diversion. He clears the market so you can return to the solitude of your heart. And when the Jews asked him by what authority he did that, Jesus gave a mysterious prophecy, but full of healing power for your tired body. Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days. John 2:19. He was speaking of his body, of death and resurrection, but in a layer of meaning applicable to you tonight. Allow this old, tired, worry-filled self to be destroyed in sleep. Do not fear the breaking. Let the old person of today die with sleep and trust in the promise, I will raise it again. Tomorrow morning, when dawn breaks, you will be raised again. Fresher, stronger, by the very resurrection power operating in every one of your cells, even when you are unaware. Now the space inside you has been cleared. The noise of the market has ceased. The empty jars have been filled with new wine. A sacred silence begins to envelop, preparing for a deeper dialogue about rebirth, where the night is no longer an enemy, but a soft blanket sheltering the transformation of the soul. Can you feel the wind starting to blow gently through your mind? That is the wind of the Spirit, waiting to blow into the life of a man named Nicodemus and into your very dream tonight. Having cleared the temple of the mind from the noisy marketplace, the space inside you is now quiet enough to welcome special guests. Imagine the night covering the city of Jerusalem. The small alleys are windy. A man is walking hurriedly in the dark, his cloak pulled high to hide his face. That is Nicodemus. Why is Nicodemus so much like you tonight? He is an accomplished man, a professor, a respected leader. He has everything the world desires: knowledge, status, respect. But he cannot sleep. There is a big question, an invisible void urging him to seek Jesus in the middle of the night. Are you like that too? During the day, you wear the cloak of success, of responsibility, of being fine. But when night falls, you face yourself and realize that old knowledge and experiences no longer resolve the insecurity in your heart. Nicodemus comes to Jesus with logical thinking. How can a man be born when he is old? He is trying to dissect the miracle with the scalpel of reason, and Jesus answers him with the most beautiful and free image of nature, the wind. The wind blows where it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. John 3:8. Listen to the wind outside the window or the wind from the fan in your room. You cannot control the wind. You cannot make it blow as you please. You can only feel it. Sleep is like the wind, and so is the Spirit. The more you try to catch sleep, the further it drifts away. The more you try to control life with reason, the more exhausted you become. Jesus' invitation tonight is, let go of control. Let the wind of the Spirit blow through your soul carrying away the dust of the past. Jesus speaks of being born again. Do not understand it as a religious burden. Understand it as absolute soul therapy. Born again means you have the right to press the reset button. Tonight, as you drift off to sleep, that is when your old self lies down. Today's mistakes, regrets, slips of the tongue, let them pass. So that tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you are a new creation. You do not need to carry yesterday's burden into tomorrow. That is the miracle of rebirth happening every night. Kahlil Gibran, who always saw the conflict between reason and soul, wrote in the prophet a passage describing exactly Nicodemus's state and ours. Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield upon which your reason and your judgment and your passion wage war against your appetite. Nicodemus is that battlefield, and so are you. But Jesus comes not to supply more weapons for the war, but to bring peace. He ends the night dialogue with the greatest declaration of love, the warmest blanket to cover the trembling soul of humanity. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Around John 3:16. So loved. Let this phrase seep into your tense muscles. You are loved, not because you are wise like Nicodemus, but simply because you are the world he created. The safety of sleep comes from knowing you are unconditionally loved. And now, let the night wind of Jerusalem take us further, to a dry land under the scorching noon sun, Samaria. If Nicodemus represents those who cannot sleep because of overthinking, the woman at the well in Samaria represents those who cannot sleep because of a longing for affection and acceptance. See Jesus at this moment. He is sitting by the well. The Bible records a very human detail. Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. John 4:6. God also knows fatigue. He understands your exhaustion right now. He is not a distant God sitting on a throne looking down. He is a companion sitting on the ground, dust covering his feet, asking for a sip of water. The Samaritan woman comes to the well at noon to avoid the eyes of the world. She carries the shame of broken relationships. She goes looking for water, but in reality, she is looking for satisfaction for her soul. She draws water, drinks, and then thirsts again. That vicious cycle is exactly like our modern life. We drink compliments on social media, drink successes at work, drink fleeting romances, but then the thirst returns, more intense before night falls. Jesus sees through her heart, and he makes a shocking offer. Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. John 4:13-14. Will never thirst. Eti, is that what you are looking for? A lasting peace that does not depend on external circumstances. A joy that wells up from within rather than being borrowed from without. Kahlil Gibran wrote about this human thirst, a thirst that cannot be filled by material things. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. The Samaritan woman sought love in the wrong way. She wove the cloth of her life with threads of fear and dependence. But Jesus came to show her how to reweave her life with living water, with the love of God. The dialogue reaches its climax when the woman speaks of the expected Messiah. And Jesus responds, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. John 4:26. This is the moment of breakthrough. The first person Jesus revealed his divine identity to was not a king, not a priest, but a woman rejected by society, a person with a scarred past. What does this say to you tonight? That God does not wait for you to be perfect to visit you. He comes right in the mess, in the thirst, in your mistakes. He comes to say, I am the one you are looking for. The peace you crave is right here, in this quiet conversation. That woman left her water jar by the well and ran back to the city. She forgot the tool for making a living, forgot the physical thirst, because her soul was satisfied. Tonight, I invite you to do a similar act in your mind. Leave your water jar at Jesus' feet. The jar of worries about daily bread, the jar of past pains. Leave it there. You do not need to carry it to bed anymore. Imagine the living water flowing into your mind, cooling the neurons burning with stress. It washes away the dust of Samaria, washes away the doubt of Jerusalem. You are being bathed in grace. We have traveled the first leg of the journey, from the genesis of the Word, through the miracle of new wine, the cleansing of the temple, the night wind with Nicodemus, and now the cool water with the Samaritan woman. The light has shone, the taste has been experienced, the touch has felt the wind and water. Your spiritual senses have been awakened to receive healing. And as you gradually drift into sleep with that cool feeling, prepare yourself, because this gentle water is about to overflow into a powerful waterfall. In the next chapter, we will see the carpenter from Nazareth not only comfort, but also stand up with supreme authority, confronting the biggest storms of life and disease. But that is tomorrow's story. For now, sleep well in his cool stream. Let us continue to maintain that steady rhythm of breathing. Inhale silence and exhale haste. We have just left the well of Samaria, where the soul's thirst was quenched. Now, let your mind drift gently to another scene in Jerusalem. There is a pool named Bethesda, meaning House of Mercy. A beautiful name, but paradoxically, this place is filled with desperate lives. Around the pool are porticos filled with the sick, blind, and paralyzed. They lie there, waiting for the water to stir, waiting for a random miracle. Have you ever felt that your bedroom is like the porticos of Bethesda? You lie there night after night, paralyzed in thoughts, waiting for something to change so you can be happier or simply so you can sleep. If only work were less stressful. If only that person understood me. If only I had more money. We hang our happiness and sleep on the phrase, if only. That is the paralysis of the soul. In that crowd, the Bible specifically describes a man who had been ill for 38 years. Reflect on this number. 38 years is a lifetime. 38 years of watching others be healed while he was not. 38 years of disappointment eroding hope. Perhaps you are also carrying a pain, a bad habit, or an insomnia so persistent that you have begun to believe it is part of your destiny. You have accepted lying still on the mat of helplessness. But then Jesus steps in. He does not wait for the water to stir. He does not ask about the medical record. He asks a question that sounds redundant, but drills deep into the heart. Do you want to get well? John 5:6. Why did God ask that? Because sometimes we have become so familiar with our brokenness that we fear healing Lying there complaining is easier than standing up and taking responsibility for our lives. The man immediately gave an excuse. "Sir, I have no one to help me. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." That is the voice of a victim mindset. We blame circumstances, blame others for our insomnia, for our unhappiness. But Jesus does not argue with those excuses. He cuts through the negative train of thought with an authoritative command. Get up, pick up your mat, and walk. John 5:38. Tonight, this word is for you. Get up from the victim mindset. Pick up your mat. The mat, once a symbol of your imprisonment, now becomes evidence of your victory. You do not need to wait for circumstances to change, the water to stir, to have peace. The source of peace is standing right next to you. Healing does not come from the external environment. It comes from God's command within your soul. Imagine rolling up those worries, the mat, tucking it under your arm, and walking gently into sleep. You are no longer its slave. You are its master. Kahlil Gibran, with deep insight into human suffering, wrote in The Prophet a sentence that can startle us into awakening from this paralysis. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Perhaps this insomnia, this anxiety, is a bitter potion the soul is using to wake you from the coma of material life, so you realize you need a deeper healing from the Creator. Do not hate the pain. Listen to it and let God heal it. And when you have stood up from paralysis, walk with me to a lush green hill by the Sea of Galilee. There another problem arises: hunger and the fear of scarcity. 5,000 men, not counting women and children, are hungry, and the disciples start calculating. Philip, representing our reason, says, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Philip is looking at the lack. Andrew finds a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but he is also skeptical. But how far will they go among so many? This is the picture of your mind every time night falls. You start calculating resources, money in the account, remaining time, existing health, and the conclusion is always, not enough. Anxiety is essentially a wrong math equation. You take life's needs minus your ability and get a negative result. But look at how Jesus acts. He does not panic. He tells everyone to make the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in that place. Imagine sitting down on that soft grass, the smell of fragrant grass, the cool breeze blowing from the lake. The act of sitting down is an act of rest and trust before the miracle happens. You cannot receive when you are running around in chaos. You must stop. Jesus takes those 5 small loaves, originally a meager lunch of a child, and gives thanks. He does not look at the lack. He looks at the Father and gives thanks for what is there. And the miracle happened. The bread multiplied. Everyone ate their fill, and there were even 12 baskets of leftovers. The law of God's kingdom is strange. When you place your little into God's hands with gratitude, it becomes abundant. Tonight, what do you have? Maybe you only have a little strength left, a little hope as fragile as 5 dry loaves. Do not despise it. Do not hide it for fear it is not enough. Give it to Jesus. Pray, "Lord, I only have this little piece left. I offer it to you." He will break it, multiply it, and nourish your sleep. Leave the anxiety about tomorrow, money, work, on that hill. The one who can feed 5,000 people from nothing can certainly sustain your life. God's abundance is not just enough, but overflowing. Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. John 6:12. Nothing is wasted in your life, including sleepless nights, tears, and the fragments of the past. God will gather them all to make something useful later. Do you see? From the paralyzed man at Bethesda to the hungry crowd on the grassy hill, Jesus is always the answer to human helplessness. He breaks the paralysis of habit and fills the fear of scarcity with the abundance of grace. Your mind is now freed from the mat of victimhood and the math of scarcity. You are lying on the green grass of trust, but the journey of the soul is never smooth forever. After being filled, the disciples face a new, more terrifying challenge. A storm in the middle of the night sea, where they are alone and see no shore. And there a harsh sifting of faith will take place. Will the peace you just found stand firm against the fierce waves? The sun has set over the hills of Galilee. The crowd has dispersed. Now, darkness covers everything again. The disciples get into a boat to cross to the other side, heading toward Capernaum. And the Bible records a chilling detail. By now it was dark, and Jesus had not yet joined them. John 6:17. It was dark, and Jesus had not yet come. Is that exactly how you feel on your worst sleepless nights? A feeling of utter loneliness. You are alone in the vast sea of life. The headwinds of anxiety start blowing hard. The waves of pressure slap relentlessly against the boat of your mind. You row. You try to control the situation, but the boat keeps rocking, threatening to capsize. The peace of the afternoon on the grassy hill seems to have vanished, leaving only the fear of reality. But look, in that pitch-black darkness, there is a figure walking on the water toward them. The Jews feared the sea because, for them, the sea was the dwelling place of chaos monsters. But Jesus is treading on those waves of chaos. He does not need a boat. He stands on the very things that scare you. When the disciples screamed in terror thinking it was a ghost, Jesus' voice rang out, tearing through the roar of the storm. It is I, don't be afraid. John 6:20. In the original Greek, this phrase is ego eimi, I am. This is the powerful title of God. He did not say, don't be afraid, the storm is about to pass, or don't be afraid, the boat is sturdy. He said, don't be afraid, for it is I. Tonight, the only sedative for the storm in your heart is not the assurance that tomorrow everything will be fine, but the assurance that God is there with you. His presence is greater than your circumstances. Close your eyes and imagine Jesus walking on the waves of anxiety in your head. Wherever he steps, the waves calm. He is stepping into the rocking boat of your sleep right now. And the Bible says, then they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading. John 6:21. When you invite God's presence into your panic, peace will come immediately. But God's peace does not stop at calming the external storm. He wants to anchor you with a deeper truth inside. The next morning, the crowd sought him again. They wanted more bread. They wanted the miracle to continue. They wanted a God who served their stomach's needs. And this is when Jesus gave a hard teaching that stunned the crowd. He said, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. John 6:35. And even more shockingly, whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life. John 6:54. Why is this word important for your hurting soul? Eating and drinking are acts of internalizing. You cannot get full by looking at bread. You must eat it, so it becomes part of your flesh and blood. Likewise, many of us suffer from insomnia because we only look at religion, look at good advice, but never truly eat God's peace. We wear faith on the outside like a coat. When the storm comes, it blows away. But God wants His peace to seep into your marrow. Jesus is inviting you into a relationship so intimate that there is no distance left. He wants you to digest His word, so that word nourishes you from the inside. Kahlil Gibran, writing about true giving in The Prophet, had a sentence echoing this very spirit of Jesus' sacrifice. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. The crowd wanted possessions, bread miracles, but Jesus wanted to give them Himself, His body and blood. He knew that bread would only feed them for a day, but His very life would feed them forever. Tonight, do not just ask God for a good sleep, that is bread. Ask for God Himself. When you have Him, sleep will automatically come as an accompanying gift. But this teaching is too hard. It requires commitment, a renunciation of the superficial ego, and a heartbreaking scene occurred. From this time, many of His disciples turned back and no longer followed Him. John 6:66. They left. They wanted an easy God, an instant painkiller, not a painful soul surgery. Perhaps you have also felt like giving up. You pray but see no immediate answer. You try to live well, but adversity still strikes. You feel God demands too much. The feeling of abandonment, the feeling of religious disillusionment makes you toss and turn. At that moment, Jesus turned to the remaining 12 disciples and turns to you tonight with a poignant question. You do not want to leave too, do you? John 6:67. In the silence of the late night, hear God asking you, do you want to give up too? Do you want to go back to the old worries, the old ways of solving things? And Simon Peter, with all the sincerity of a man who had tasted enough bitterness of life, gave the answer that became the greatest anchor for every lost soul. Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. John 6:68. To whom shall we go? This is not a statement of reluctance, but of enlightenment. Peter realized that out there, the world had nothing to offer his soul. Money cannot buy peace. Fame cannot buy sleep. Only God holds the words of eternal life. When you realize that God is the only refuge, you will stop struggling. You will stop looking for solutions in places with no answers. The world's dead end is the beginning of true peace. Imagine dropping the anchor of your life. It pierces through the mud of anxiety, through the waters of emotion, and hooks firmly into the solid rock that is Jesus. The anchor rope tightens, keeping your boat steady even though the wind and waves remain. Whisper with Peter, Lord, to whom shall I go? The world out there is too noisy and hollow. I choose to stay here. I choose to eat the bread of life. I choose to trust you, even when I don't fully understand what you are doing. That feeling of commitment brings absolute safety. You are no longer standing at a crossroads. You have chosen home, and home is peaceful. The darkness of tonight is no longer scary, because the I am is in the boat with you. You have eaten the bread of life. Your soul is full. Now, let your body rest. But the journey of light does not stop there. If here, the disciples had to use their ears to hear hard words, in the next part, we will see a man who had to use his eyes, even though he had none, to see the Messiah. We will step into the most dramatic debate between light and darkness, where a blind beggar becomes the most sighted person in Jerusalem, and the Good Shepherd calls each of his sheep by name. Let the boat of your mind come to shore. We leave the vast waters to return to the ground, where the dust of everyday life still lingers. Imagine you are sitting by the roadside in Jerusalem. Before you is a beggar blind from birth. He lives in eternal darkness, never having seen the sun, never having seen his mother's face. His darkness is not only the defect of his eyes, but also the judgment of society. The disciples pass by and ask a cruel question that perhaps you yourself have asked in nights of tormented insomnia. Rabbi, who sinned? This man or his parents, that he was born blind? John 9:2. Why is this happening to me? Am I being punished? What did I do wrong to deserve this pain? Why questions are enemies of sleep. They loop in your head like a broken tape, digging deep into guilt. But listen to Jesus' answer, an answer that breaks all chains of destiny. Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. John 9:3. Take a deep breath of this liberation. Your pain, your current difficulty is not a punishment. It is a stage for God's glory to be displayed. You no longer need to look for causes in the past. Look to the future. God does not look at the cause of darkness. He looks at the purpose of light. Tonight, release yourself from the tormenting whys. And then, healing happens in the strangest way. Jesus spits on the ground, makes some mud with the saliva, and puts it on the man's eyes. Why mud? God is reminding us that He is the Creator, the one who formed humans from dust. When your life is muddy, when everything becomes messy and dirty in the eyes of the world, that is when God's hand is touching you closest. He's not afraid to touch your wounds. The blind man goes to wash in the pool of Siloam and returns seeing. But tragically, the world around him does not rejoice. The Pharisees, representing the judgmental, harsh, dogmatic voices in our heads, start interrogating him. They try to deny the miracle. They try to sow doubt. The man who healed you is a sinner. You were steeped in sin at birth. The battle in your mind every night often plays out like this. You just find a little peace, bright eyes. Then old worries, Pharisees, attack. You don't deserve to sleep well. Tomorrow's problems are still there. But learn the beggar's resistance. He does not debate high theology. He clings to his practical experience with a simple but powerful sentence. One thing I know. I was blind, but now I see. John 9:25. One thing I know. Tonight, when thousands of anxious voices attack you, return to one thing you know for sure. One thing I know, I am still alive. One thing I know, God is still keeping me. I just clinging to that one truth. You will push back the darkness of doubt. Do not try to explain life. Just feel the grace that is present. When that man was thrown out of the synagogue, rejected by society for daring to believe in Jesus, it was then that Jesus found him. This is the wonderful law of the kingdom of heaven. When the world rejects you, God will seek you out. And from that moving encounter, Jesus opens up the most comforting image in the entire Bible, an image that has lulled billions of souls to sleep over thousands of years, the Good Shepherd. Imagine an endlessly stretching green pasture. You're a small, fluffy sheep, a bit silly and prone to getting lost. Around is the night full of wolves and thieves, but you are not afraid. Why? Because a familiar voice rings out. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. John 10:3. Calls his own sheep by name. Merti. In this vast world of 8 billion people, you're not a number. You have a name, and the Creator knows that name. He knows your heartbeat, knows your fear of the dark, knows what position you like to sleep in. This intimacy is the medicine for the deepest loneliness. You do not sleep alone tonight. The one who calls your name is guarding right beside you. Jesus continues to affirm his absolute protective role. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. John 10:9. In the ancient Middle East, a sheep pen was sometimes just a circular stone wall with no wooden door. The shepherd would lie across the entrance. The shepherd's body itself was the door. Any wolf wanting to attack the sheep had to step over the shepherd's body. Any sheep wanting to stray would stumble over the shepherd. Imagine Jesus lying across the door of your soul tonight. Nightmares want to invade. They must step over him. Anxieties want to attack. They hit him first. He is the shield of flesh, the wall of fire surrounding your sleep. You are lying in the safety zone of divine protection. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, speaking of love as a guide, wrote haunting lines very similar to the image of the shepherd leading sheep through the valley. When love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. And when his wings enfold you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. Sometimes the path the shepherd leads us through may be hard and steep, like the valley of the shadow of death. Perhaps he has to use the rod to correct, wound our bad habits, but yield to him, because his ultimate purpose is not to harm, but to give you abundant life, and the pinnacle of that love is encapsulated in the great declaration, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. John 10:11. The hired hand will run away when he sees the wolf coming, because he does not own the sheep. But Jesus is not a hired hand. He is the owner. You belong to him. He paid the price with his own life to buy back peace for you. No one abandons an asset they traded their life to obtain. Think about this. If he died to save you, would he grudge giving you a good night's sleep tonight? Certainly not. The noisy debate of the Pharisees has receded. The shouts of the crowd demanding stoning have died down. Now, in your spiritual space, only the green pasture, the quiet waters, and the tall, steady figure of the shepherd standing guard remain. The sound of his rod and staff tapping rhythmically on the ground. Tap, tap, the sound of safety. Let that rhythm synchronize with your heartbeat. You have been washed clean by the water of Siloam. Your eyes have seen the light, and your ears have heard the voice calling your name. Now, as you lie still in the warm sheep pen, prepare yourself. Because out there, the shadow of death is stalking a close friend of God. Bad news is about to arrive from Bethany. We will see that the shepherd not only protects life, but he also has the power to call life back from the dead. A shocking miracle awaits in the next chapter, the story of Lazarus, but that is tomorrow's business. For now, little sheep, sleep. The shepherd is awake. Adjust your lying position one more time. Feel the weight of your body sinking deeper into the mattress. You are safe. We have just left the shepherd's green pasture to come to a small village called Bethany, not far from Jerusalem. This is a haven of friendship, home to the three siblings, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, Jesus' closest friends. But tonight, that peaceful house is enveloped in the shadow of illness and death. Perhaps in your own life right now, there is also a Lazarus dying. It may not be a person, but a dying dream, a gasping relationship, or exhausted finances. What have you done? Like the sisters Martha and Mary, you have sent an urgent plea to God. Lord, the one you love is sick. You expect an immediate intervention. You wait for the phone to ring, wait for a miracle before the sun sets. But what happened? So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. John 11:6. He stayed 2 more days. He did not hurry. And in those 2 days of terrifying silence, Lazarus died. This is perhaps the most painful experience in our faith, the silence of God. When you toss and turn all night, begging for a good sleep, but only getting a chilling alertness, you feel abandoned. Where is God when I need him most? Why is he late? This disappointment is more uncomfortable than physical pain. It gnaws at the soul, preventing you from closing your eyes. But friend, listen to Jesus' whisper echoing from across the Jordan River. This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory so that God's Son may be glorified through it. John 11:4 will not end in death. Anchor your mind to this phrase. What you are going through, the deadlock, the loss, the despair tonight, is not the end. It is just a temporary tragic chapter to open up a more glorious one. God's delay is not a denial, but a preparation for something greater that our limited minds cannot yet comprehend. When Jesus arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. According to Jewish belief, after 3 days, the soul has left the body. Decomposition has begun. Hope is completely extinguished. Martha, the practical and grieving woman, ran out to meet him with a choked reproach. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. John 11:21. If you had been here. How many times have we soaked our pillows with that phrase? If God had helped me sooner. If I hadn't made that mistake. Assumptions of the past only add burden to the present. But Jesus does not look at the past. He looks straight into Martha's swollen eyes and declares a truth that shakes the realm of death. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. John 11:25. He did not say, I will give resurrection. He said, I am the resurrection. Life is not a gift he brings, but his very nature, even if everything around you has died. If you have him, you still have life. And then we witness the most human, most tender moment of the Creator. When seeing Mary weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, Jesus was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. And the Bible records the shortest verse, but containing an ocean of emotion. Jesus wept. John 11:35. God wept. Tonight, if your tears are wetting your pillow because of pressure, because of loneliness, know that you are not crying alone. The one who holds the power of the universe is crying with you. He is not an unfeeling God sitting on a distant throne. He is a bone-deep empathizer. God's tears are validation for your pain. You are allowed to be sad. You are allowed to be weak. And it is in that weakness that power will be revealed. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, wrote about pain as a means to break the hard shell of understanding, a painful but necessary preparation for growth. Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding, even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. Lazarus's death, the sister's pain, is that process of breaking of the shell. Without this extreme pain, they would never see the extreme glory of resurrection. If the seed does not break in the cold ground, it cannot sprout to meet the sun. Tonight, regard your anxiety as the shell cracking. Do not fear the cracking sound. Light is seeping in. Jesus goes to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. He orders, "Take away the stone." John 11:39. Martha objects, "Lord, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days." Yes, our problems, our psychological traumas buried for a long time, often have an unpleasant odor. We are afraid to open them up. We want to cover them with sleep, with forgetfulness. But God cannot heal what you hide. He wants you to roll the stone away. Open your heart to Him tonight. Expose the darkest, smelliest corners of your soul. Do not be afraid. He does not hold His nose and turn away. He stands there to clean it up. And when the stone is rolled away, Jesus' voice rings out like thunder, piercing the mist of the underworld. Lazarus, come out. John 11:43. Listen to that call for you. Hope, come out. Peace, come out. Good sleep, come out. And the dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen, and a cloth around his face. This image is so like us, resurrected, but still bound by old habits, old fears, grave clothes. Jesus orders further, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." John 11:44. Tonight, perform the ritual of taking off the grave clothes in your mind. Unwrap the bandage of worry tightening around your head. Unwrap the bandage of stress binding your shoulders. Unwrap the bandage of fear binding your feet. You are free. Walk gently into sleep. You no longer belong to the grave of insomnia. You belong to life. The miracle at Bethany lit a brilliant flame of hope, but at the same time, it ignited a dark conspiracy. The rulers of darkness could not stand this blinding light. They began planning to kill Jesus. But at Bethany, in the house just revived, a Thanksgiving feast is being prepared. And there, Mary will do something whose fragrance will spread through thousands of years to your very bedroom tonight. It is an act of sacred wastefulness, a total letting go. Moi. Let your mind leave the cold cave of Lazarus to step into a warm, candlelit room in Bethany. 6 days before the Passover, a banquet is held to honor Jesus. Lazarus is sitting there as living proof of God's power. Martha is busy serving, a serene family scene that all of us crave after a long, tiring day. But the focus of tonight's dream lies not at the banquet table, but at the feet of the Lord. Observe Mary. She does not say a word. She quietly brings out an alabaster jar of pure nard perfume. This is not ordinary perfume. It is worth 300 denarii equivalent to a worker's annual wage. It could be her life savings, her security for the future. And then she breaks the jar. She pours that fragrant oil on Jesus' feet, then bows down, using her own hair to wipe his feet. The Bible records a detail full of therapy for the senses. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. John 12:1-3. Close your eyes and try to imagine that scent, the rich, deep scent of nard spreading into every corner of the room, dispelling the smell of death from the previous days. This scent symbolizes the presence of unconditional love. When you go to sleep, let the fragrance of gratitude fill your mind, pushing back the stench of worries. Mary's act teaches us the lesson of sacred waste. To the pragmatic world, pouring a year's wages onto the ground is madness. Judas Iscariot, representing the calculating, pragmatic voice in our heads, spoke up in harsh protest. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. John 12:5. Do you hear Judas's voice in your head every time you want to rest? Why lie here? Such a waste of time. I should be working, making money, solving problems. Sleep is a luxury when debt remains. Judas's voice is the voice of anxiety disguised as financial wisdom. It makes you feel guilty for taking time to care for your soul. It wants you to be constantly active, to sell every moment for profit. But listen to Jesus defending Mary and defending your sleep tonight. Leave her alone. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. John Dewell, 7:8. Leave her alone. An absolute protective command. Jesus is creating a boundary for Mary. Tonight, he is also saying to the calculating thoughts in your head, leave my child alone. Let her sleep. The worries of poverty, the poor, are always there. But this moment of peace, me, is precious. Mary used her hair, a woman's glory, to wipe the Lord's dusty feet. That is total humility. She kept nothing for her ego. To enter deep sleep, you need to learn to let down the hair of your soul like Mary. Remove fame, pride, and social makeup. Become naked and humble before the Creator. Only when you let go of control will you receive rest. Kahlil Gibran, reflecting on the nature of giving, wrote a sentence in the prophet as if dedicated to this moment of Mary. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. Mary did not give to be praised. She gave for the joy of loving God. That joy was her reward, her good sleep. As for Judas, the keeper of the money bag, the calculator of loss and gain, he was the sleepless one who eventually went into the darkness. Tonight, choose to be Mary. Do not be Judas. Waste your time in God's presence, for that is the most profitable investment for the soul. Now, let the scent of nard guide us from Bethany towards Jerusalem. A major event is about to happen. The crowd is pouring into the streets. They hold palm branches in their hands, symbols of victory and national independence. Shouts resound across the sky. Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel. John 12:13. Hosanna means, save us now. The crowd is craving a warrior king, someone who will ride a majestic war horse to drive out the Romans, liberating them from political oppression. They expect a noisy revolution on the outside. But look at how our king comes. Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt. John 12:14-15. He does not ride a war horse. he rides a donkey's colt. In ancient culture, when a king rode a horse, he came to make war. But when he rode a donkey, he came in peace. How important is this image for your insomnia? Very often we go to bed with the mindset of a person riding a war horse. Our minds are galloping, ready to fight tomorrow, ready to attack difficulties, ready to defend against criticism. The hoofbeats of stress pound in the chest. That is why you cannot sleep. You are in fight or flight mode. But Jesus invites you to get off the war horse and step onto the donkey with him. Slowness, humility, peace. The donkey takes one step at a time, leisurely, unhurriedly. God's way is the way of peace, not the way of haste. Kahlil Gibran had a deep observation about the contrast between the noisy ego and the quiet self. The soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself, like a lotus of countless petals. Your soul is not an arrow rushing forward like a warhorse. It is a lotus unfolding slowly. Do not force yourself to win or succeed right tonight. Let the soul unfold gently on the donkey's back. The crowd's cheers are boisterous, but Jesus knows their shallowness well. Today they shout, "Hosanna," but in just a few days, they themselves will scream, "Crucify him." God does not let his mood depend on external noise. He keeps inner peace. This is a big lesson for us. Do not let your sleep depend on whether you are praised or criticized, successful or failed today. The world's applause is like palm branches, green in the morning, but withered in the afternoon. If you build your peace of mind on the recognition of others, you will always be insecure. Build it on the presence of the one sitting on the donkey, the one who rules by peace, not by the sword. As the noisy crowd gradually recedes, Jesus begins to speak of another great paradox. He does not speak of a throne. He speaks of a grain of wheat falling to the ground. He is preparing the disciples' minds for his coming death, not as a tragedy, but as a law of multiplication. Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. John 12:24. This prophecy is like a deep bass note, pulling our minds into contemplation of the meaning of the ultimate letting go. To have new life, the grain of wheat must accept burying itself in the dark earth. To have restorative sleep, you must accept dying to consciousness for a few hours. The night is late. The scent of nard still lingers somewhere. The clip-clop of the donkey's hooves has ceased. Now, we stand at the threshold of the great sacrifice. Jesus knows his hour has come. He does not run away. He walks toward it with steadfast love. In the next part, we will see how that grain of wheat begins the process of falling to the ground as he stoops to wash the feet of those who will betray him in a dinner filled with love and parting. Night is gradually falling over Jerusalem. The shouts of Hosanna have faded, and the palm branches have been discarded by the roadside. The crowd has dispersed, leaving behind a cold silence. In the final moments of his public ministry, a group of Greeks approached Philip with a simple but longing request. "Sir, we would like to see Jesus." John 12:21. We want to see Jesus. Is that the cry of your heart tonight? After all the noise of religion, the arguments of reason, the fatigue of daily life, Ultimately, what our soul needs is not another philosophy of life, but to see peace present. And Jesus answered them with a profound agricultural image that I hinted at in the previous part. But tonight, we need to dig deep into it to find the secret of sleep. Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. John 12:24. Imagine you are that kernel of wheat. All day long you hold tight to your husk, the husk of defense, of ego, of worries that need solving. You're afraid to fall. You're afraid to touch the ground. You fear the loss of control that sleep brings. But God says that if the grain keeps clinging to itself on high, it remains only a single seed. It is lonely. It is barren. Sleep is the act of falling to the ground. It is when you let go of every anchor, accepting to fall into the Creator's arms. Die here is not physical death, but the death of conscious control. When you sleep, you no longer worry about tomorrow, no longer hold anger about yesterday. You die to the world to regenerate vital energy, produce many seeds for tomorrow. Do not fear the darkness of sleep. It is the Mother Earth nurturing your revival. But this process of letting go is never easy. Even for Jesus, the Bible records a heartbreakingly honest moment, a moment that makes God closer to the insomniac than ever. Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it was for this very reason I came to this hour. John 12:27. Now my soul is troubled. Do you hear that? The Creator of the universe is admitting He is troubled. The queasy feeling in the stomach, the rapid heartbeat, the heaviness on the chest, the symptoms of anxiety you are enduring tonight, Jesus tasted them all. He is not a steel-skinned Superman who knows no pain. He is a complete human being with trembling emotions before adversity. If tonight you feel troubled, afraid, do not blame yourself as weak or lacking faith. God was also troubled. But watch how He handled that anxiety. He did not suppress it, nor did He run away. He faced it and said to the Father, "What shall I say? Father, save me from this hour?" No, He chose not to run away from the hour. He chose to go through it. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, speaking of fear and acceptance, wrote, "For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one." The river trembles as it is about to pour into the great sea. It fears losing its identity as a river, but only when it merges into the sea does it become the ocean. Your fear tonight, the river, is standing before the door of sleep, the sea. Do not pray, "God, save me from this night." Pray, "God, glorify your name through my sleep." And as soon as Jesus chose obedience, a voice from heaven resounded, "I have glorified it, and will glorify it again." John 12:28. The crowd thought it was thunder, but it was the Father's confirmation. When you accept letting go of control and offer up your anxiety, God's peace will come like rolling thunder, breaking the terrifying silence in your head. Finally, before leaving the temple never to return to public teaching again, Jesus left an urgent piece of advice about light. You are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you. John 12:35. Walk while you have the light. This is an invitation to seize the present moment. Do not wait until everything is perfect to seek peace. Do not wait until the darkness of old age or illness strikes to start trusting. Right now, as you are lying here, breathing, Hearing these words, that is light. Walk in gratitude right now. Jesus adds, I have come into the world as a light, so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. John 12:46. The phrase stay in darkness is worth pondering. You may go through darkness, like sleep, like difficulties, but you will not have to stay in it. Darkness is just a corridor, not the destination. Your destination is light. Kahlil Gibran also had a beautiful view of darkness and light complementing each other, helping us see the truth. The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. We are not night owls accustomed only to darkness. We are children of light. But sometimes we need to go through the darkness of the night to appreciate the brilliance of the dawn. As chapter 12 closes, the Bible records a quiet but dramatic shift. Jesus ends his preaching to the public. He withdraws. He turns his back on the noisy crowd, turns his back on the hard-hearted Jews, turns his back on the outside world. Where does he go? He goes to find a quiet room, an upper room. There, only the closest ones are allowed to enter. There, it is no longer sermons on the hill or shocking miracles, but whispers of love, the sound of water trickling in the wash basin, and the warmth of bread and wine. Your mind is the same. It is time to close the door to the outside world. It is time to withdraw from the crowds of chaotic thoughts. Step with Jesus into the upper room of your soul. There, a feast of communion and comfort is waiting. The sweetest, most profound promises are about to be revealed in the next chapter. The hour of parting. Take a deep breath. The heavy feeling of the kernel of wheat is fading, replaced by the relief of letting go. You are sinking into the soft soil of grace. Dear friend, imagine you are walking up old wooden steps into the upper room in Jerusalem. The noise of the streets has been left behind. The door closes. Warm candlelight gives off the gentle scent of beeswax. The atmosphere here is thick with silence and sacredness. This is the safest place in the world tonight. You are with Jesus in the final hours before he steps onto the cross. The Bible opens this chapter with a sentence containing the entire heartbeat of God. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. John 13, John, he loved them to the end. The phrase to the end means not only in time, but also completely to the uttermost. Let this uttermost love wrap around you like a soft velvet blanket. You do not need to do anything to deserve this love. You just need to be present here, in this room, and receive it. Everyone has entered the banquet, but there is an underlying tension. According to Jewish custom, a slave is needed to wash guests' feet because of the dusty roads, but no one is willing to do it. The disciples are arguing about who is the greatest. Their ego is inflating, and that is exactly our image every time we go to bed. Our ego is still fighting. I'm right. They are wrong. I must be more successful. I must not let others look down on me. These thoughts are the layer of road dust clinging to the mind, making you itchy, uncomfortable, and unable to sleep peacefully. And then Jesus stood up. He did a shocking act. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. John 13:4. He took off his outer clothing. This is a symbolic act of letting go of status, letting go of glory. Tonight, to sleep well, you also need to learn from God. Take off your outer clothing. Take off the title of director, excellent employee, perfect mother. Take off all those social labels. Beneath that clothing, you're just a naked soul in need of love. God pours water into the basin. The sound of trickling water rings out in the stunned silence of the room. Trickle, trickle, the sound of cleansing. He kneels, lifts each calloused, dirty foot of the disciples, and washes it. When it was Peter's turn, he reacted violently. No, you shall never wash my feet. John 13:8. Peter represents our pride. We are shy to let God see our darkest, dirtiest corners. We want to solve things ourselves, to wash our mistakes ourselves. We say, Lord, I'm fine. I can take care of it. But Jesus replies, a sentence both stern and gentle. Unless I wash you, you have no part with me. John 13:8. Unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Dear friend, sleep is a gift of grace, not a reward for effort. You cannot wash your mind, clean yourself by overthinking. You must let God do it. Hold out today's muddy feet. Lord, this is my jealousy. This is my greed. These are my lies. Do not hide them. Let the cool water of forgiveness wash it all away. How relieving it feels to be cleansed. The dust that clung all day has vanished with the water. Jesus even washed the feet of Judas, the one plotting to sell him. Reflect on this. If God was willing to kneel and wash the feet of his betrayer, is there any mistake of yours he cannot forgive tonight? God's forgiveness precedes human repentance. That is the softest pillow for you to lay your head on. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, speaking of service and working with love, wrote lines as if describing Jesus' very hands at this moment. Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. Jesus is turning a slave's work into love made visible. He does not wash feet out of duty. He washes out of love. He wants to teach us that the only way to find peace is not to climb high, but to bow low. When you bow down, the gravity of anxiety no longer has an effect. After washing their feet, putting his clothes back on, and returning to the table, Jesus issued a new constitution for his kingdom. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. John 13:34. Why does this help you sleep well? Because much of insomnia comes from conflict in relationships. Anger, bitterness, and hatred are the strongest neural stimulants. The invitation to love one another as I have loved you is an invitation to lay down arms. As I have loved you, meaning loving even when they are dirtiest, loving even when they are about to betray, loving and serving unconditionally. When you decide to forgive someone before going to bed, you are not doing them a favor. You are cutting the chain binding your mind to them. You liberate yourself. Kahlil Gibran also spoke of giving and forgiveness as a natural fragrance of the soul. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked through understanding. God washed the disciples' feet unasked, simply out of understanding. Tonight, forgive those who hurt you today, even if they haven't apologized. Wash their feet in your mind. Let them leave your mind along with the dirty water that has been poured away. The room is now clean. The feet have been relaxed. The road dust is gone. But Jesus knows that external cleanliness is not enough. Inside the disciples' hearts, a fear of separations is beginning to rise. They sense he is about to go far away, separation anxiety begins to creep in. To reassure them, Jesus begins to speak of an eternal home and another comforter who will come. These promises are like powerful sedatives he will give to them and to you in the next part of tonight. Have you felt your feet lighter? Wiggle your toes in the warm blanket, feeling clean, fragrant, and pampered. Are you ready to hear the deepest confidences? The upper room remains bathed in flickering candlelight, but the atmosphere has begun to thicken with anxiety. The disciples look at each other, eyes filled with bewilderment. Jesus has just said he is going to a place where they cannot immediately follow. The feeling of impending abandonment begins to invade their minds. That is also our constant feeling late at night. When the world's noise fades, when the last messages have been answered, we face a vast emptiness. We fear what tomorrow will be like without a guide. We fear loneliness. Understanding that fear, Jesus begins his farewell speech with a reassurance as gentle as a command of love. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. John 14:1. Do not let. God gives you control over your heart. Trouble will knock, but you have the right not to invite it in. He paints a hopeful future scenario to replace current fear. My Father's house has many rooms. I am going there to prepare a place for you. John 14:2. Close your eyes and visualize the Father's house. It is a vast, spacious place where a room has been prepared specifically for you, with your name on the door. You are not homeless in this universe. You have a place to belong. Tonight's sleep is just a small shadow of the eternal rest in that house. Lie down with the posture of an owner, not an anxious guest, but a promise of a distant future may not be enough to soothe present pain. We need help right now. And this is when Jesus introduces the most important character for your sleep, the Holy Spirit, the Comforter. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of Truth. John 14:16-17. In the original language, advocate is parakletos, meaning one called to walk beside. Imagine you are walking in a pitch-black tunnel, sleep anxiety, and you are scared. But suddenly, you feel someone walking right by your shoulder, holding your hand, whispering words of encouragement. That is the Holy Spirit. He is not up high. He is with you and in you. God affirms a firm sentence to shatter the fear of loneliness. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. John 14:18. Orphans. No word describes a more terrifying loneliness than this one. Being an orphan means having no protector, no provider, having to fend for oneself. But God says, you are not an orphan. Tonight, whether you are lying alone in an empty room or feeling lonely in a cold marriage, remember, you are not an orphan. The Comforter is there, right in your breath. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, had a deep insight into separation, helping us understand why God had to leave so the Comforter could come. He wrote, "And ever has it been that love knows not its own depth until the hour of separation." Sometimes physical presence is a barrier. When Jesus was there in flesh and blood, the disciples only saw him externally. But when he left, the Spirit came, and love truly entered the depth, entering inside the soul. God's physical absence is the opportunity for his full spiritual presence. This hour of separation is the hour of deepest union. To illustrate this union, Jesus gives the most beautiful image of rest, the vine and the branches. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. John 15:5. Look at the branch. Does the branch have to strain to bear fruit? Does it have to stay up all night, worry and stress, to force grape clusters to grow? No. The branch's only job is to remain, connect to the trunk. The sap from the trunk will automatically flow through it, nourishing it and producing fruit. This is the secret of therapeutic sleep. Sleep is the act of remaining. All day long you have tried to do many things. You tried to make money, solve problems, care for family. You are tired because you think resources must come from your own efforts, the branch trying to survive alone. But tonight, God invites you to stop. You don't need to do anything. Just connect with me. Let my sap of peace flow through you. Imagine your body as the branch, completely relaxing to connect to the great vine that is Jesus. Feel the warm sap flowing from head to toe, nourishing every cell, healing every wound. Apart from me, you can do nothing. This sentence is not to threaten, but to liberate. It reminds you that individual effort is limited. Accept that limit and happily depend on God. Dependence on God is the pinnacle of freedom. And the final gift in this section, the most precious testament Jesus left, is peace. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 14:27. Notice the distinction. My peace and world gives. What is the world's peace? It is when you have lots of money, good health, and no one bothering you. It depends on circumstances, conditional. When circumstances worsen, that peace vanishes. But what is Jesus' peace? It is stillness in the eye of the storm. It is calmness even when he is about to be crucified. It is an internal, immutable peace that no one can take away. He does not lend it. He gives and leaves it as an inheritance. It is yours. Receive it. Imagine this peace as an invisible weighted blanket, pressing lightly on your chest, keeping your heart from dancing with anxiety. I receive your peace. I do not receive the world's anxiety. And ending this epic of comfort, Jesus gives a realistic but authoritative summary. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. John 16:33. Take heart. He does not promise the sky will always be blue. He confirms in this world you will have trouble. Tribulation is inevitable. But the reason for you to sleep well is not because trouble is gone, but because God has overcome the world. His victory covers your failure. His power covers your weakness. You are on the winning side, even when you feel like you are losing. With the promise of the Comforter, the connection of the vine, and the testament of peace, the disciples' minds were somewhat anchored. But before walking out of the room to face the enemy, Jesus does one last act. He speaks to them no more. He lifts his eyes to heaven and speaks to the Father. The greatest prayer in human history is about to be raised. A prayer not for himself, but for unity. This will be the final spiritual shield protecting you from separation and loneliness in the next part. Take a deep breath. Do you feel the sap flowing? Do you feel the companion holding your hand? You are not alone. Absolutely not. The atmosphere in the upper room is now absolutely silent. The teachings have ceased. Jesus stands up, but he has not yet stepped out. He makes a gesture you often do when feeling helpless before circumstances. Looking up. After Jesus said this, he looked toward heaven and prayed. John 17:1. Looked toward heaven. When looking down, he saw the disciples' dusty feet. When looking sideways, he saw betrayal and fear. Only when looking up did he see the source of strength. Tonight, if you are lying awake, tossing and turning because you are looking at the troubles around you, bills, illness, conflicts, I invite you to perform a simple spiritual movement. Shift your gaze. Stop looking at the darkness. Look at the light. And his first prayer rings out, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. John 17:1. The hour has come. All his life, Jesus always said, my hour has not yet come. But now the cosmic clock has struck. He does not panic. He accepts that hour, even if it is the hour of death, with an attitude of obedience. Peace comes when you accept the timing of your life. Tonight may be the hour of trial, but it is also the hour for God's glory to be revealed through your trust in him. Next, Jesus turns to pray for the disciples and for you. This is the most powerfully protective part. He knows how dangerous the world out there is. He knows the pressure you face every day. But listen carefully to what he asks. My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. John 17:15. We often pray, God, take me out of this trouble. Take this burden away immediately. That is the psychology of wanting to escape. But Jesus prays differently. He does not ask for you to be taken out of the world, but for you to be protected right in the midst of the world. Imagine you're a diver going into the deep sea. You do not need the sea to be drained for you to be safe. You just need a really good diving suit and a full oxygen tank. God's protection is that diving suit. It encases you, helping you withstand the pressure of the ocean of life without being crushed. Tonight, sleep well in the diving suit of grace. The external pressure remains, but inside, you are safe. But the pinnacle of this prayer, and also the deepest healing medicine for the fragmented mind of modern man, lies in the petition for oneness. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. John 17:20-21. That all of them may be one. Why is being one important for sleep? Look at your mind right now. Is it being torn apart? A piece worrying about the past, a piece fearing the future, a piece wanting to do good, a piece craving lust. We are fragmented. This inner conflict is the cause of insomnia and anxiety disorders. We are not at one with ourselves. Jesus prays for us to be integrated into the unified flow of the Trinity. When you step into God's presence, the fragments of your soul are drawn together, welded by the glue of love. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, when discussing good and evil, gave a wonderful definition of this wholeness. You are good when you are one with yourself. When you are divided, you are weak. When you are unified, you are strong. Jesus' prayer is not just about unity between people, but the healing of the division within your very self. Tonight, let Jesus' prayer stitch up your tattered soul. Let your reason, emotions, and spirit find a common voice in his silence. And then, Jesus makes an affirmation of timeless love, an eternal anchor. Father, you loved me before the creation of the world. John 17:24. Before this world was created, before you were born, before you made mistakes, love was there. You were born from love and will return to love. Today's worries are just a speck of dust in that eternal flow. Why let a speck of dust blur your eyes all night? Finally, God ends the prayer with a commitment to action. I have made you known to them, and will continue to make you known, in order that the love you have for me may be in them, and that I myself may be in them. John 17:26. I myself may be in them. This is the final assurance. God is not just beside, Parakletos. He is inside, indwelling. You become his mobile temple. When you go to sleep, God sleeps in you. When you wake, God wakes in you. You are never, never alone. The prayer ends. The space falls into silence. But this silence is different from the beginning. It is no longer heavy with anxiety, but full of holiness. The disciples feel as if an invisible shield has just been erected around them. Then Jesus says, "Come now, let us leave." They sang a hymn, according to Jewish tradition after the Passover meal, and walked out, leaving the warm room, leaving the candlelight. They step into the night of Jerusalem. The cold wind blows from the Kidron Valley. Darkness covers the ancient olive trees. They are heading towards the Garden of Gethsemane. There, the hour that God spoke of will begin to strike second by second. There, the fiercest battle between human will and divine will take place. There, sweat will become blood. Dear friend, prepare yourself. We are about to enter chapter 5, Suffering and Glory. Tonight, we will not avoid the cross, because only by walking through the darkness of Gethsemane and Golgotha will we find the true dawn of resurrection. But now, hold on to the warmth of this prayer. Wrap tightly around the promise, I am in you, and walk with him, not with fear, but with the trust of one who is protected. Let your mind drift along the Kidron stream, crossing the cold valley to enter a garden called Gethsemane, meaning oil press. The name says it all. This is where olives are crushed to release the finest oil. And tonight, your soul may also feel crushed under the weight of life's pressures. But rest assured, precisely in that pressure, the anointing of peace will pour forth. The quiet night is suddenly torn apart by flickering torches and the clang of weapons. Judas leads a large detachment of soldiers to arrest Jesus. Observe the reactions of two men representing two attitudes toward life tonight, Peter and Jesus. Peter, in panic and wanting to protect his master, drew his sword and cut off a servant's ear. Peter represents our natural reflex when facing anxiety. Fight. When you have insomnia, you often draw your sword. You fight with thoughts, you wrestle with the pillow, you get angry at surrounding noises. You think that straining effort will bring peace. But no, it only creates more chaos and injury. Hear Jesus' voice ring out, authoritative yet full of calm. Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me? John 18:11. Put your sword away. This is the first command for you to go to sleep tonight. Lay down your weapons. Stop fighting circumstances. Resistance only drains your energy. And he speaks of the cup. In Jewish culture, the cup symbolizes destiny, what God allows to happen. Jesus chose to drink the cup instead of wielding the sword. Drinking is an act of acceptance. When you accept that you are tired tonight, accept that current troubles are part of the journey, tension will immediately dissolve. Peace does not come from cutting off the enemy's ear, but from drinking the cup of trust to the dregs. And then they bound him and led him away. From the quiet olive garden, Jesus was taken to the palace of Pilate, the Roman governor. A sharply contrasting scene unfolds. Pilate, who holds the power of life and death, is confused, going in and out, asking questions constantly. But Jesus, the bound prisoner, stands there with the stillness of a mountain. Pilate represents the world, noisy, powerful, but full of fear and uncertainty. Jesus represents the truth, silent, bound, but completely free. Pilate asks him, "Are you a king?" Jesus answers with a manifesto that has become an anchor for millions of lost souls in the stream of life. "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place." John 18:36. My kingdom is not of this world. Why does this sentence heal your insomnia? Because most of your anxiety comes from trying to build your kingdom in this world. You worry about houses, money, fame, things belonging to the world. And because the world is always fluctuating, your heart is always insecure. But tonight, Jesus invites you to step into his kingdom, a kingdom from another place. That place does not operate by the laws of money or power. That place operates by love and peace. When you close your eyes, tell yourself, "I am leaving this noisy world to step into the kingdom of rest." The problems out there have no power in this kingdom. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet, writing about time and eternity, touched the essence of this other kingdom. But the timeless in you is aware of life's timelessness and knows that yesterday is but today's memory and tomorrow is today's dream. In each of us there is a timeless part that is the soul, where God's kingdom reigns. That part knows no fear, no haste. When you cannot sleep, it is because you are living by the finite ego. Reconnect with the timeless within you. Look at life through Jesus' eyes before Pilate. Calm because he knew where he belonged. The dialogue reaches its climax when Pilate, in the extreme confusion of a rationalist, asked an eternal philosophical question. What is truth? John 18:38. Pilate asked and turned his back to go out, not waiting for an answer. That is the tragedy of modern man. We always ask how to sleep well, how to be happy. But we turn our backs to look for answers in medicine, entertainment, work, without standing still before the one who is truth. Jesus did not answer with words. His silent presence was the answer. Truth is not a bunch of theories. Truth is a person. Truth is you are loved. Truth is you're not alone. Truth is everything will pass, only his love remains. Pilate went out and declared to the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against him." Although Pilate found Jesus innocent, the crowd's shouting was too loud. "Crucify him! Release Barabbas to us!" Barabbas was a robber, a rebel. The crowd, symbolizing chaotic thoughts in your head, often chooses rebellion, Barabbas, over peace, Jesus. Tonight, you stand before a choice exactly like Pilate. In your head, there are two voices. One screams, "Worry, be afraid, solve the problem." That is Barabbas. One whispers, "My kingdom is not of this world. Sleep, my child." That is Jesus. Do not be like Pilate. Do not yield to the noisy crowd. Choose Jesus. Look at Jesus again at this moment. He is bound, slandered, made a joke of fate, but he still stands there, head held high. He is not a victim. He is a victor voluntarily stepping onto the battlefield. His peace does not depend on whether he is released or not. Your peace should also not depend on whether tomorrow's difficulties disappear or not. Take a deep breath. Feel the majesty of the silent King spreading to you. You do not need to explain yourself to anyone, as Jesus did not defend himself to Pilate. You do not need to prove your worth. You belong to another kingdom, the kingdom of peaceful sleep. And when Pilate, under the pressure of the fear of losing his seat, decides to hand Jesus over to the Roman soldiers for execution, a new, more painful, but also quieter chapter begins. The sound of the whip tearing the wind is about to ring out. The crown of thorns is about to be woven. But strangely, precisely in those painful symbols, we find the cure for the mental pains we are carrying. We will walk with him onto the path of suffering, Via Dolorosa, in the next part. Not to mourn, but to see how he carries the pain for us. Let your breath settle a little more. We are entering moments of tragic silence. Pilate has ordered Jesus to be flogged. The sound of the whip tearing the wind rises. Crack, crack. But tonight, I do not want you to focus on the blood or the physical pain. I want you to look at the meaning of that suffering. The Roman soldiers, in their brutality and mockery, wove a crown of thorns and placed it on his head. They put a purple royal robe on him and slapped him in the face, jeering, "Hail, King of the Jews." Let's pause at the image of the crown of thorns. Thorns in the Bible are symbols of curses, of worries, and tangles growing from the barren soil of the soul. Tonight, what is your head holding? Is it the thorns of anxiety? A thorn of debt pricking your temples? A thorn of a broken relationship stabbing the back of your neck? A thorn of insecurity piercing your forehead? Your head aches. Negative thoughts drill deep into your brain, preventing you from sleeping. But look, what did Jesus do? He accepted that crown of thorns. He let the sharpest thorns pierce his head. He is saying to you, "My child, take off your crown of anxiety. I will wear it for you. I will endure this throbbing pain so your mind can be at peace. Every headache, every tormenting thought of yours tonight, God empathizes with. He does not stand outside your pain. He is carrying it on his very head." Kahlil Gibran, reflecting on the nature of sorrow and joy, wrote in The Prophet a sentence that can completely change how you view current suffering. The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. The crown of thorns is carving into God's head, just as pain is carving into your soul. But that very carving is expanding the capacity of your soul, so that later, when the dawn of resurrection comes, you can contain a greater joy. Do not fear pain. Regard it as the sculptor's knife carving a masterpiece. After enduring the torture, Jesus stepped out. Pilate pointed at him and said, "Here is the man." John 19:5. A battered, bleeding, weak human being. But that is the truest image of humanity. Tonight, you do not need to pretend to be strong like stone statues. You are allowed to be the man, weak, vulnerable human. God accepted that form. He embodied weakness, so you never have to be ashamed of your weakness. And then the road to Golgotha begins. The Bible records, carrying his own cross, He went out to the place of the skull, John 19:17, carrying his own cross, the weight of the rough wood pressing on his bleeding bare shoulder. Every step is an extraordinary effort. Perhaps tonight, you also feel like you are carrying a cross that is too heavy. The burden of family responsibility, work pressure, societal expectations. You drag your tired steps through hours of tossing and turning. But look closely. You are not carrying it alone. Jesus is walking before you. He opens the way. He knows the weight of wood, the steepness of the hill, and the scorching heat of the noon sun. The place he is going to is called the place of the skull, Golgotha. Why the skull? It is the symbol of the mind, of death, of dry thoughts. The greatest human battle always takes place in their skull. Jesus brought the cross right to the center of the skull to plant liberation there. Tonight, imagine you are walking with God to the hilltop of your mind. Lower the cross from your shoulder. Place it next to his cross. Lord, I can't carry it anymore. I leave it here at this Golgotha. The sound of wood hitting the ground. Thudod. Your shoulders are light. You have arrived where you need to be. On that hill, they crucified him. And Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. John 19:19. The chief priests protested, but Pilate, showing firmness for the first time, answered, What I have written, I have written. John 19:22. Even on the cross, in the posture of a naked and helpless convict, he was still proclaimed king. This reminds you, bad circumstances do not change your identity. Whether you are unemployed, sick, or desperate, you are still a child of the King. Your dignity lies not in the clothes you wear or the bed you lie in, but in the royal blood flowing in your soul. At the foot of the cross, a contrasting scene unfolds. The soldiers divided his clothes among the four of them. They tore apart the outer things, outer garments, but the undergarment, tunic, was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. They decided not to tear it, but cast lots for it. The seamless tunic symbolizes the wholeness of God's character. The world can strip you, take away money, fame, outer clothes, but no one can tear apart the wholeness of your soul if you keep it seamless with God. Tonight, let the world take what it wants, as long as you keep the tunic of faith intact. And then, amidst the curses, mockery, and gasping breath, Jesus looked down. He saw his mother, and saw the disciple he loved, John, standing there. Horrific physical pain did not make him forget the responsibility to love. He said to his mother, Woman, here is your son. John 19:26. And to the disciple, Here is your mother. John 19:27. In the darkest moment, Jesus created a new family. This family is not bound by human blood, but by the blood of sacrifice. Why is this detail important for your sleep? Because the greatest human fear when facing death or night is loneliness. We fear being left behind. We fear our loved ones will be helpless. But Jesus teaches us that love has the ability to connect and fill every gap. He did not leave his mother helpless. He entrusted her to his best friend. He took care of their future even as he was about to die. This reassurance is a wonderful sleeping pill. Lord, I entrust those I love to you. I entrust my parents, children, spouse to your care. You do not need to stay awake to worry about them. The one dying on the cross could care for his mother. How much more the one who has risen, sitting on the throne of power? He will take care of your family better than you. Kahlil Gibran wrote about giving like this: "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." On the cross, Jesus had no possessions left. Clothes were taken. He only had himself and relationships. And he gave it all. He gave his mother to John, gave John to his mother, and gave himself to humanity. A strange peace begins to spread from the hill of Golgotha, not the peace of a quiet garden, but the peace of a battlefield that has ended. The king has been crowned on a wooden throne. The crown of thorns has become a crown of glory. All burdens have been laid down. All worries for loved ones have been entrusted. Now only one last thing remains. One final declaration to end all suffering and open the door to eternal liberation. The darkness is thickening, but it is the darkness before dawn. Hold my hand tight. We will walk the short remaining path with him to hear the greatest verdict in history. It is finished. The afternoon sun has fallen over the hill of Golgotha. A strange darkness has covered the land. All mockery has tired itself out and fallen silent. Only the sound of the wind whistling through the crevices of the rocks and the heavy breathing of the one hanging on the cross remain. In the final moments of his earthly life, Jesus utters a word that fully expresses his humanity. "I am thirsty." John 19:28. Why is this detail recorded? The one who created rivers and seas now utters the plea of a physical thirst. This is to tell you, admitting your needs is not a sin. You lying in bed tonight may also be thirsty. Thirsty for a good sleep. Thirsty for a little peace. Thirsty to be understood. Do not suppress it. Do not try to pretend you are fine. Whisper to God, "Lord, I am thirsty. My soul is parched." When you acknowledge the thirst, that is when the stream of grace begins to flow. They gave him a sponge soaked in vinegar. He received it, and then he gathered all his remaining strength to utter a shocking declaration, a word that completely changed the destiny of humanity and will change your sleep tonight. It is finished. John 19:30. In the original Greek, this word is tetelestai. It does not mean "I am dying" or "life is over." It is a commercial term meaning paid in full. Every debt has been paid. Every work has been completed. Let the word tetelestai echo in your mind like a temple bell, spreading waves of peace. The mistakes you made today? Tetelestai forgiven. The unfinished business, the unresolved pressures? Tetelestai, God has taken control. Your part for today is done. The struggle to be better? Tetelestai, you do not need to try anymore. Grace has completed it for you. A good sleep only comes when you believe that it is finished. If you lie there thinking, "I haven't finished this, I'm still lacking that," you will never sleep. Tell your overworked brain, "Hey mind, God says it is finished." Do not try to work overtime when the Master has given permission to rest. After that declaration, the Bible records an action as gentle as a falling leaf. With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. John 19:30. Gave up his spirit. He was not stripped of life by death. He voluntarily gave it up. He bowed his head, an image of rest. Tonight, imitate God. Bow your head on the pillow and give up your soul to the care of the night. It is an active, trust-filled letting go. Kahlil Gibran, in The Prophet writing about death, used a beautiful image of liberation, like drinking the river dry to find the sea. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. Jesus drank the cup of suffering to the dregs, drank from the river of silence of death, so that his soul could sing the song of triumph. Your sleep tonight is also a river of silence. Drink it. Do not fear the silence. It is in that silence that your soul will be restored with energy to sing tomorrow morning. To ensure he was dead, a soldier pierced his side with a spear. Blood and water flowed out, blood to atone for sin, water to cleanse. Imagine that stream of blood and water flowing through your mind right now, washing away all the debris of stress, anxiety, and guilt. You are being washed absolutely clean. And then, as evening fell, a quiet transformation took place. The noisy ones had all left. Only those who loved God in silence remained. Joseph of Arimathea, a secret disciple, came to ask for Jesus' body. And Nicodemus, whom we met in chapter 1, who came to God in the night out of fear, now appears publicly in broad daylight. He brings a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds, about 34 kilograms. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. John 19:39. Why is the number 75 pounds important? That is the amount of spices used for a king's burial. Nicodemus, once timid, has now poured out his wealth and reverence for the dead king. The scent of myrrh, bitter but fragrant, and aloes fills the air. Inhale deeply and imagine the rich, warm herbal scent wrapping around you. This is not the smell of cold death, but the smell of royal rest. You are lying in the embrace of love, embalmed with the most precious things. They laid his body in a new tomb, located in a garden. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden, a new tomb. John 19:41. In the garden. The suffering began in a garden, Gethsemane, and now ends in a garden. The garden is a place of life, of plants, of sprouting. God lying down in the tomb is not the end, but like a seed sown into fertile soil. A large stone was rolled across the entrance to the tomb. Darkness covered everything. The great silence began. The Sabbath was approaching, the day of rest. Jesus, having completed the great work of redemption, now rests. He keeps the Sabbath most fully in the heart of the earth. Dear friend, the stone has blocked out all external noise. You are in the garden of sleep. No one can disturb you right now. No email can arrive. No phone ring can sound. You are safe behind the solid stone wall of God's protection. Feel the coolness of the stone slab, the calmness of the darkness. This is the cocoon for your hibernation. Do not rush to wake up. Allow yourself to sink deep into this silence. Kahlil Gibran said, "Night has the capacity to strip the soul of its garment and unveil its beauty." In the darkness of the tomb, the beauty of resurrection is being woven. In the darkness of your bedroom, new vitality is being regenerated. Sleep. It is finished. Tetelestai. The King is resting, and you, his beloved child, rest too. Because no matter how heavy the stone, no matter how thick the night, a brilliant dawn awaits ahead. The first day of the week is coming. A new chapter full of glory is about to open. But that is tomorrow's story. For now, hush. Let the silence heal you. My dear friend, let your mind drift to a quiet garden in the early morning. It is the crossover moment, when the night dew has not yet vanished, and the light is just faintly breaking. Scripture opens this glorious chapter with a scene of profound stillness. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb. John 20:1. While it was still dark, Mary sought the Lord even in the darkness. Perhaps you too are seeking peace amidst the dimness of your life right now. Do not wait until everything is clear to begin trusting. Remember, it was precisely while it was still dark that the heaviest stone, the stone of deadlock, was rolled away. While you slept, the invisible hand of God moved the burdens you thought were insurmountable. But pain often blurs our vision. Mary stood weeping beside the empty tomb, her tears blinding her to the resurrection present right before her eyes. She mistook Jesus for the gardener. A beautiful mistake, for he is indeed the great gardener, the one silently uprooting the weeds of anxiety and watering your parched soul tonight. Entrust the garden of your mind to his care. Amidst her sobbing, Jesus offered no theological explanation. He spoke only a single word: Mary. John 20:16. He called her name. In this noisy world, there is one who knows your name, who understands every beat of fear in your heart. When he calls your name, you are no longer invisible. You are known and you are loved. That call tore through the night, turning the cry of mourning into a cry of joy. Rabboni. Kahlil Gibran in The Prophet wrote of the labor of love. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. Mary had woven her pain with threads of tears, but God rewove her life with threads of life. Tonight, let go of your clinging to past sorrows. Do not try to hold on to old pains. When you hear his quiet voice calling your name, know that the dawn is beginning to break within your heart. The sun gradually sets. We shift from the open garden to a closed room. The disciples are afraid. The doors were locked for fear. John 20:19. The doors were locked. Is your mind locked tight tonight? Locked out of fear of being hurt again. Locked because of lurking anxiety. We think the lock protects us, but in truth, it imprisons us in solitude. But physics cannot stop love. Jesus passed through those locked doors, stood among them, and said, "Peace be with you." He does not wait for you to open the door. He actively steps into your fear to grant shalom. Take a deep breath and receive the peace that is now permeating every barrier of your mind. However, Thomas was not there. When told the news, he doubted. He represents our sharp but weary reason. Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, I will not believe. John 20:25. Unless. We often set conditions for God. Unless God solves this, I cannot sleep well. But God does not abandon the doubter. A week later, he returned, went straight to Thomas, and held out his scarred hands. Put your finger here. Stop doubting and believe. John 20:27. Why does the risen one keep the scars? To tell you, he understands pain. His wounds are a shelter for your wounds. Upon touching the pain of God, Thomas broke down, "My Lord and my God." From doubt, he found the most steadfast faith. Kahlil Gibran wrote, "Faith is a knowledge within the heart, beyond the reach of proof." Tonight, you do not need to see to believe. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. Blessed are you for choosing to trust and closing your eyes to sleep, even when tomorrow is not yet clear. Let the peace of God heal the sickness of doubt and fling open the doors of your heart to welcome rest. Finally, let your soul be soothed by the waves of the Sea of Galilee. After a night of failed fishing, exhausted and hungry, the disciples stared at an empty net. It is the image of hopeless effort. But as dawn broke, there was a man standing on the shore, guiding them to cast the net, and an abundant catch appeared. The lesson for sleep. Success comes not from your anxious striving through the night, but from the gentle guidance of God in the morning. Drop the net of anxiety and rest. When they came ashore, they saw the most heartwarming sight. Borak, a fire of burning coals there with fish on it, and some bread. John 21:9. A charcoal fire. Breakfast was ready. And the invitation? Come and have breakfast. God is not only the powerful risen one, He is the tender friend caring for your every meal and slumber. Warm your cold soul by this fire. Here, Jesus asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" He did not mention the failure. He did not ask, "Why did you deny me?" He used love to wash away guilt. The past is gone. The charcoal fire of past denial has now become the charcoal fire of restoration. Kahlil Gibran reminds us, life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. Life does not go backward. Do not carry the burden of yesterday into your sleep tonight. God has forgiven. God has prepared breakfast for tomorrow. Your task is to trust, to love Him, and to walk in response to the call, "Follow me." Closing for sleep. Our journey is complete, from the darkness of the tomb to the light by the shore. Every burden has been cast down. Listen to the waves. Hush. Feel the warmth of the fire. It is finished. You are loved. You are forgiven. You are safe. Sleep well in the arms of the one who conquered death.